Well, listen, what are the consequences of this? I mean, how is it potentially going to disrupt the factory sort of team there and Pecco's kind of environment? Again, as we've mentioned on the podcast in the past, Marc had very much that superiority complex in Repsol Honda. Anybody that came into the team was having to share a garage with a team that was incredibly tight. Marc Marquez was Repsol Honda to all intent and purposes, and Bagnaia has formed a similar kind of structure or ethos, you could say, in red.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the question is, it opens so many questions. First of all, I don't think that Marc Marquez is going to be wanting an awful lot of money. What he wanted was to be in the factory team, to have a factory bike, to have factory support. His contract will be 100% focused on, I want this in terms of support. I want this in terms of all of these other things. Maybe also, look, I'm not asking for very much money, so I'm not going to do very much media for you. You know, there'll be less of those sort of things. And he won't necessarily have to, basically. So, yeah, I think there are ways around that. The sponsorship thing, especially, I think the Red Bull versus Monster is a much, much bigger one. I think they will find a way to make room for some of the other sponsors, personal sponsors that Marc has. For example, Allianz. I'm fairly sure they can find a way to get that all worked out, unless the insurance deal is much, much bigger than we actually know about. All of these sort of details you won't really know until you actually go looking at people's shirts on starting on the 1st of January next year. So that one is tricky to say. But like I say, this wasn't about money. This is about Marc wanting to win championships. And he is 100% going to ruin the atmosphere in that team. I know Pecco has denied that he didn't want Marc in the team, but you know, you wander around and chat to people, and that is very much not the impression that you get.
Yeah, I think Pecco, after the press conference on Thursday at Mugello, was doing a bit of an Italian debrief, and I was told that someone had asked him, you know, have you had any say in this rider choice? You know, have you told Ducati whether you want Martin or Marc? And he said, I didn't say any names. All I said was, I don't want someone in here who could upset the current harmony of this team that we've built over the last 4 years, which is very obvious what that means. I think yes, he might not have stated it, but he certainly almost stated it, I think we could say.
Yeah. I can't imagine what he's referring to. I mean, it's a mystery.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic develops. I think Marc has been trying his best over the last couple of rounds to be respectful. Obviously, there's been a few flashpoints between him and Pecco this year already, but there's been a kind of mutual respect from what we can see. And, you know, Marc certainly hasn't tried to really get under Pecco's skin. I mean, just wait until we go to Valencia and they're both still within a shot of winning the championship. But, you know, I think that's probably an effort from him to try and show, like, look, I can be accommodating, I can play the game, you know, factory and team first, et cetera, even though it's all a load of nonsense. And I think you just have to commend Marc, really, at the end of the day, just for his powers of everything, not just his powers on track, but how he kind of manages things off the track. He's been in Ducati for 6 months, less than 6 months, and he's already engineered a way for him to get himself into the factory team and to push out one of Ducati's best riders. You know, it's quite remarkable just how he's managed to manage it all and get exactly what he has wanted.
Guys, I think these sort of two titans together in the team for the next 2 years for the Ducati setup, I mean, that's really pretty big, right? I mean, since maybe Jorge Lorenzo entered Repsol Honda alongside Marc, I don't think there's been two riders of such clout and such results on their CV in recent times where you think, whoa, you know, the battle for the championship doesn't begin with 20 other riders on the grid. It starts right away in that same garage.
Yeah, exactly. And as we know, the Lorenzo Marquez thing was a non-event because Jorge never adapted to the Honda, and it was his final year in Grand Prix. And after 6 or 7 races, he injured himself to such an extent that he was thinking about retirement. I think you would probably have to go back to Rossi and Lorenzo for the last time that you've had this kind of heft in one single garage. Two great champions who rightly think that they should be the number one. And, you know, look how the Lorenzo and Rossi thing played out in. Going to mention it. What you did?
What I was going to say was, hang on 1 minute. Next year, 2025, 10 years since what?
Exactly. You didn't say it, but we all know what you meant.
Yeah, exactly. It is. The 2025 is going to be the 2015 Memorial season. And I think like Lorenzo Rossi is a much better comparison because it's a good bike. I think this is more like Lorenzo and Rossi in 2008 or 2000. Yeah, it was 2008 when Lorenzo joined. Only obviously he was a rookie in those years where there's a champion on a bike. There's someone coming in who the other person really doesn't want. It's clearly a winning package. It's a very, very competitive bike. There's going to be all sorts of strife. And I think if Pecco Bagnaia could put up a wall and get to switch to Bridgestones, he would.
Yeah, I think if Pecco thinks he has his work cut out this year, then just wait till the next 2 years.
Exactly.
Well, and ultimately, Marc has what he wants, which is the latest spec technology from currently the best bike builder on MotoGP grid. So mission accomplished. Whether he wins the championship this year or not, he's going to be sitting pretty for the next two.